Hi, this is Paul Sanneman with Contractor Success Tips. Putting on a podcast to help contractors do better in their work and business. And I have as a guest this morning, Duane. So Duane Barney, tell me about you and your business. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. I'm sure you have some great insights to give to our listeners.
No, thanks, Paul. Thanks for inviting me. I always like the opportunity to speak to as many contractors as I can, because that's what I try to do, is help them out mainly with their business. I have found, and especially in my experience, I know how to build. And most guys I've ever met in the industry know how to build. Their challenge is not being a contractor, it's running the business. So that's what I aim to do. I aim to try to help them as much as I can, any way I can, on their operations, on their procedures, their processes, sales, marketing, whatever it takes on the business side, those skills they lack. And that's my primary focus.
Tell me a little bit about your background. I know in our pre-discussion you mentioned you work with a computer, which is not a background that most builders have. So tell me a little about yourself and how you got into here, because I thought it was a really interesting history when you talked about it earlier.
Well, I've been in the industry my entire career. Got a degree in building construction from the University of Florida. I went into commercial work after that. Eventually, in that commercial world, I ended up sitting at a desk. This was early computer days. We had mainframes. Laptops weren't out yet, so that explains this. But
I was here. I was here before cell phones. Sort of guy. I'm that old guy, right? And I have drugged contractors through cell phones that they didn't want to do it because it wastes their time in the truck. And then I went through websites, which were a fad, and then it was after that it was software was a fad. And my latest one is things like AI. It's just a fad. It's going to go away. So I have drugged contractors through technology my entire career. So you've had a similar experience.
Yep. I worked next to a guy one day. Yeah, I'd say a guy, but he was a young kid in my world. And he said, "Do you realize I have never lived a day of my life without a cell phone?" And I was like, it just fascinated me. Like that, I was like, without a cell phone, like they're still new to me.
Right.
And he was like, "No, my entire life." And I was like, I had never really considered that there's a whole generation and more now that have lived with a cell phone, that's a way of life for them. And it's still new technology to me. I got to keep finding mine.
Well, so I did some statistics. The average contractor is between 45 and 65, just to let you know.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's one of the challenges and the benefits I see in the industry. The challenges are there's a lot of people retiring out. As we go through the next 15 to 20 years, we're going to see a lot of experience retire out. And so for anybody new coming into the industry, it's a huge opportunity. The doors are going to just crash wide open. And the guys that embrace technology and start utilizing, like you said, the AI. I know a lot of guys now wouldn't even think of running their business without some form of project management system. There was a day, like you said, nobody was like, "Okay, what do I need a project management system for? I got this." It was in a bunch of pieces of paper floating around the pickup truck.
I think everybody graduated from yellow pads to Excel spreadsheets, right?
Oh, yeah. And there's a lot of clingers onto the Excel spreadsheets. A good accounting system can handle most of what the Excel spreadsheets do for them now. And I'm like, when I start working with a lot of builders, I'm like, okay, the first thing we're going to do is get rid of that Excel spreadsheet. Let your accounting system do the job for you. It will track everything while you're paying your bills and while you're collecting your money. You don't need a separate Excel spreadsheet.
So you work with a lot of contractors, and to me, Duane, every consultant has their own separate little pitch or special ideas. So what would you say, give me a couple examples, your biggest success and your biggest failure?
With my clients, are you asking?
Yeah, with your clients. Okay. You don't have to use names, obviously, but just give me an idea.
Biggest success, I would say, I'm still working with him. We started out working together. It was a father and son builder. The dad had been running it for 20, 25 years as a gentleman builder, build whatever you wanted kind of thing. The son came into the business. They're doing about 800,000 a year. And the son wanted to really turn it into a business, not just, hey, we build stuff. And we hooked up early on as he started to get his head wrapped around the business of construction. And he's going to break 2 million this year. And this is after a year and a half.
Wow.
And probably go 3+ next year,
And I'm
which is
assuming since you're working with him, it's profitable, right?
oh yeah, he's running a nice profitable company. I love looking at his books. It's rewarding to me, and it's rewarding for him. He's doing a great job, and he's willing to learn.
So
He's
tell me,
willing
what's
to
the key to
embrace.
success? What did you tell him that got him successful?
The main thing we've worked on is systems to run the business and him getting out of the field. When I first met with him, we had to meet at 7 a.m. because he needed to get his tool belt on and jump in the pickup truck and head to the job site. And now we have meetings at 9 a.m. And he's like, I don't have time to go to the field any longer. I've got a business to run. So his mindset has changed a lot around running the business, building those systems and developing them so he can grow and then
Well, a lot
grow
of
into
our
them.
listeners might say, well, that sounds really good, Duane, but I haven't got time, like no time for time management, right? I mean, I I haven't got time to, hang out because I'm too busy running projects and stuff. So how did you make that shift with the guy? I'm sure a lot of people listening to this right now say, well, that's a great idea, but they don't understand my business because I haven't got time to do that. I've got to get out there and field, or it's going to go to heck in a handbasket.
Well, he had the advantage, and I will say it was a true advantage. He had his father. So his dad was well versed in the field. His dad loves the field. And I explained to him, I said, that's a big win for you. One, from a marketing standpoint, you can say, here we are, we've been in business for 30 years. But you can also step away from the field because your dad is there. He's keeping an eye on things for you. So that was a leg up for him. But for most builders, that is one of the first challenges, is finding that right guy in the field that you can trust to do that job for you, or at least to be a trusting set of eyes and ears who's willing to report back and ask questions when they need to.
Do you find people using like doing photographs and using, Builder Trend or Job Tread or somebody to like get that same handle on the job without physically being there?
That takes a new mindset. It really does. It's a learning curve. I think it's a learning curve for all of us. I mean, eventually you go to the Builder Trend and the Job Tread and track your jobs on paper. I like to say you build them on paper first, and then you build them out in the field. Eventually, as your company grows, other people are running those programs and you're running your company by spreadsheets.
Mm-hmm.
The concept for a guy that's been in the field his entire life, me included, to think that I'm going to be running reports and looking at the success and failure and challenges within my business from spreadsheets seems completely foreign. And it takes time to work your way into that, to really get comfortable with that. And I work with a builder running a really nice business, 3 divisions within his company, and he's at that stage. And that's how we ended up hooking up. He got to that stage and he was really looking at the business going, what do I do now? I don't know. He's got 50 jobs going at a single time. He doesn't know his customers. Because he's got a sales team, he's got production teams, he's got all these people doing the work for him. And he's like, how do I keep a handle on this? And we restructured a lot of his accounting processes and his reporting procedures so he could see the company on paper without having to jump in the truck.
Yep. Sometimes, Duane, I have a concept of the correct instrumentation. Like if you're flying a Piper Cub, there's the sky, there's the ground, don't hit anything, you're good, right? Flying a twin Beechcraft, a little better station. If you're flying like an airliner, you're going to die unless you've got really good instrumentation, because mistakes are really expensive. I think the same thing to in business, right? If you're doing, 800,000 a year, you can only go so wrong. You're doing 4 or 6 million, you can make a $50,000 mistake in a week.
Right. Right. And that's, that is some of the challenges the guy I'm telling you about. He's doing about 7 million a year. And last spring, he had a slow spring. He had a slow February and cut into $200,000 worth of reserves in a few weeks. He's like,
right.
I never dreamed that like 200,000 could vanish that quick.
Right.
But we grabbed onto the reports and we started studying them going, okay, what's our problem here? And we identified it as a sales problem at that point. A couple of the people on the sales team they were getting like a like a 3% hit rate when they should be at like a 20% hit rate.
Right.
So there was a lot of time being spent on sales and the sales weren't coming in.
So, Duane, I mean, I use example, think of Taco Bell. Like Taco Bell knows their labor costs every 3 hours, right? And so does Costco. Whereas some of these guys don't know their labor costs until the end of the year and they do their taxes. And it's, the planes crashed, the instrumentation.
Right. If then, right. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
And that's, I'm a big advocate of job cost. I love, I use QuickBooks and I teach the guys on QuickBooks, especially the guys that are already on it. And, the projects function in there is huge for allowing people to see their profitability on the job on a weekly basis.
So you
You can
they
see
should
it on a
track
daily
every week,
basis,
right?
but you can get too much information. What's that?
Do you think they should track it every week?
Oh, absolutely. If you're doing it right in QuickBooks, you will know daily. It's like anything else, though. Don't check your bank account daily. Like it's not going to give you the correct information. It's going to give you a moment in time. So I always tell the guys, look, keep tracking it, keep it all in there. Set it up once a week. Look at your job cost on it and do it at the same time every week and get a feel for it.
Okay.
And if you see the numbers starting to drop, now you can jump in before it becomes a massive problem. Or like you said, you find out after the job is done. Well, there is absolutely nothing you can do about it.
That's right. The plane has crashed. You're done. You're in the recovery mode, right?
Yep.
So, and now I was back to what is your biggest failure and why? Some business you tried to work with, they didn't for some reason. You know what they need to do, they didn't do it, and a learning experience from that for you and the contractor.
Biggest challenge, and this is actually a current ongoing challenge I've got right now, which I'm feeling like it's a failure and I'm trying to deal with it, is a builder who really needs to clean up his operations. He's growing like gangbusters. I mean, he's just doing a phenomenal job. The owner of the company is like a sales wizard. Operations is an absolute nightmare. But everybody is so busy, as you said about busy, I can't even get the team to stop for a few minutes to help focus on getting organized. Like they're all busy running around so much, and everybody's doing it in the entire company, and trying to get my hands wrapped around that to say, everybody stop for a minute, take a deep breath, and it will get a couple of things fixed and your life will get better. They're just so overwhelmed with work and what I'll call chaos, because an invoice comes in and 14 people look at the same invoice. It was like, let's get this down to 2.
Right.
Project manager and the accountant so they can write the check. Like that's it. Like we don't need everybody in the company looking at every invoice.
Right. It's the no time for time management. That's the number one reason people don't take time management. It's no time. So give me some other insights. You've been doing this for a while. Give me some, like, if you were going to tell contractors, these are the pick 3 or 4 things that they really need to do. Because you've worked with a lot of contractors. There must be some consistency in what they're doing wrong that you tell them they should do differently.
Well, the main thing is not trying to do everything. And we all hear that you can't do it all. But the biggest challenge is getting business owners to focus on the big 3. Focus on their money, focus on sales and marketing, and focus on production. And that's it. Kind of divide your day into those 3 groups. Those are the 3 things as the owner that you need to keep your eye on. When I say production, like I said, the guy that's doing 7 million, his eye on production is looking at the production reports. He's not running out to the field to see how the guys are nailing up the wood. Other people are doing that for him. His focus is, are we meeting our production numbers to keep up with our sales team?
Right.
And on the sales side, it's that marketing piece. Nobody wants to invest in marketing. And it's challenging because you don't see a return. It's even hard to measure the return. You do a TV ad, even if you went that big, it's very hard to determine how many sales you got out of that. Was that a good investment? How do you measure those marketing?
Well, I got a question for you, Duane. How many of your clients have a marketing budget?
Very few. Very few. And the marketing is pretty much limited to a job site sign, some business cards, and some hats. And they don't need a deep pocket marketing budget for the most part, but a lot of it has to do with the owner's time of getting out into the community, joining the local Lions Club or whatever the local community groups are, the Chamber of Commerce, just being involved in the community, getting your name out there, meeting these people. The name will spread. People will know you. They'll like you and they trust you. And that helps build your business. But pulling that builder off the tools and putting on a clean shirt and heading down to the Chamber of Commerce meeting is a big challenge.
Well, the way I worked a lot of businesses, visiting architects, like, because that usually help produce business. And I came down to the hourly for visiting an architect is like $1,000 an hour. It's insane, right? I've done all the math backwards, and it's like $1,000 an hour. But the problem is, it's not instant reinforcement. They got to meet with an architect for 6 months before they get any work from him. And my experience of contractors is how am I going to put this? They have no patience, or they're the kind of people that instant gratification is their life. Have you had that?
And even on that meeting, a lot of the guys, their objective in the meeting, hey, I'm going to meet with an architect. I'm going to see what jobs he has for me to bid. Like, it's not going to happen that fast. Get to know the guy.
What's like,
I know what type of
what's
work
your
he
name?
builds.
My name is Paul. Let's get married, right? Doesn't work really well.
Right. Yeah. It and those introductions and those time periods is exactly like that. It's like dating.
I've done the numbers, and it takes an average of 7 months and 7 meetings with an architect to get one job. And unfortunately, a lot of contractors just don't have that kind of patience.
Yeah, it's all in the follow-up, and you've got to be in the game. You've got to set the time aside. And the only person that can do that is the owner. You can hire guys to go out in the field and frame, hang drywall.
And architects are offended unless somebody but the owner shows up.
Right. Yeah, you can't send anybody else in there. That's your job. That's your primary role. That is your marketing effort, is to get out there and meet and greet and spread the company name and goodwill. And they say, a lot of deals are made on the golf course, but that's part of it. That's part of building that rapport, is being out there. And, everybody's going to say, the guy's out golfing. He's goofing off. He's actually working. He's building up the network, but it's hard to see that as working. I know. We all know what work is. It involves really dirty and sweaty.
Especially contractors, right? Because they're used to hourly kind of wages, right? Hours work for hours pay, blah, blah, blah. And when you talk about it, the people that are actually accumulating a lot of wealth, they don't look at it that way at all. They go, how to create value, how to make my company valuable. And that's like a different concept for contractors, because they're, I should work hard. Working is physically doing something, not using an architect or going to a Chamber of Commerce meeting or developing relationships. So how do you, I've had a difficult time in doing this a lot of years. How do you convince a contractor that it's good for him to meet with architects or go to the Chamber of Commerce, and that is actually work and does pay them money?
Well, convincing them is not hard. They do understand the concept. I think we all understand that concept, that, I'm not going to get any work from architects unless I go out there and meet them. Right. But getting them to take the next step is the real challenge. And what I try to do is just hold them accountable.
Okay.
I will say, okay, how many architects are you going to call before our next call? I will call 2. Okay, great. We get on the next call. I'm like, how many architects you call? Well, I got really busy. I didn't call any. Okay, well, how many are you going to call? And I just keep reinforcing it until they start doing it.
Yeah, I've done it. I've actually got to the point
once you start doing it, it gets easier.
Yeah, I've actually had to the point where while I'm on the consulting, I'll say, okay, let's call a guy right now, right? It's really hard to get him to do stuff. So what other things have you found that really work from your practice that make a big difference in with contractors' lives and their lifestyle and revenue and all that kind of stuff?
Well, for me, it's systems. I mean, I'm an operations guy at heart. So I believe in setting up as many things inside your business as you can to systematize it and to get all of those systems connect. And that's the other thing I see a lot with builders. They'll get an accounting system. They'll get a project management system, Builder Trend or Job Trend or whatever. And then they don't take the effort to connect the two. Now they've got 2 completely different systems working not against each other, but not with each other. And that's not helping them from a time standpoint. They get those 2 to start talking to each other, and they get that information to flow into sales and marketing, and the sales and marketing piece flows smoothly into production, and production tracks the job cost, which goes back up into accounting. And now the whole thing starts working by itself.
Duane, give me an example of an instrument panel that one of your contractors has that you think is a really good instrument panel to fly the plane with?
Well, a lot of them, I mean, Builder Trend does a really great job of integrating with QuickBooks, which is a huge tool for most guys. I'm working with another builder who is using Sage 300 integrated with Autodesk Build, another phenomenal combination of project management and accounting. And those are really the two main elements I see that need to connect to each other. A lot of project management, a lot of running a job is tracking your accounting. You've got budgets, you're buying materials, you're buying subcontracts. You need to know what you spent. You need to know your numbers. So you need the feedback from accounting. You've got to connect your project management system to your accounting system.
Well,
You
how's
need
that tie
that
with your
data.
estimating system also? That should be connected or not?
The estimating can sit separate. It needs the feedback from accounting and from job costing to make sure it stays on track. I still find estimating a lot floats around out there in an island. They don't play well together because they kind of got they're living, you know, accounting is a very defined numbers. Estimating is just that. It's estimating. It's a little bit of Ouija board work.
Mm-hmm. So do you see anybody that integrates estimating with either JobTread or, you know, Procore, or any of those that actually works?
The estimating programs, I don't know if JobTread does. Builder Trend has an estimating piece. Most of the project management have an estimating piece, but typically they're just a piece. They're like a side element on there. You can do your estimate. You can send the proposal out to the client and you can convert that into a job, but it's not tied into the accounting piece other than you now have a budget and you can see your cost.
Okay.
But as far as a real good tie-in, I mean, I used one for years. It was Home Tech. What I liked about it is it gave me a regional update on costs. So I didn't have to get feedback from the subs. I got good enough at doing the estimates. I knew what I should include in there, and I could estimate for the plumber, the HVAC, the electrician.
With the pandemic, things were crazy, right? I mean, not only did it double in price, but you couldn't get it for 3 months or 6 months.
Oh,
right?
and you still can't. Windows. We joke all the time that if you sign up a job, you've got to order the windows before you sign the contract, or you'll never have the windows in time. It's a crazy world still out there, and a lot of these lead times of material. And that's one of the challenges builders have, is knowing what those lead times are, managing that so they can manage their schedule and their project.
Right.
Whole job can come to a halt if you don't have windows.
That's true. So when you work with contractors, give me a little of how you do it. You know, you work monthly, weekly. What do you think is the most effective way for a coach to work with a contractor? Because you've been doing it. I'm just curious your opinion.
Yeah, well, what I have is my entire course is on video, so they can watch the videos as we go through, and then I have a bi-weekly call with them to just hit hard on specific issues that they're having in those areas and really deal with it on a one-on-one with their business. Now, I'm also available between the calls, but the scheduled calls are to really keep us focused and making forward progress.
I mean, can you do?
And I have tried to shorten that up.
Available without the calls, or they have to sign up for the calls to get the
No,
video?
I have the course available without coaching for anybody who would want to do it just, you know, self-taught kind of thing. They can buy the course separately without the coaching. But the coaching brings it into answering those one-on-one personal questions. Like, okay, I get this accounting thing, but really, how do I make this work for me? How do I get my bills paid on a weekly basis? How does this whole entire system work for me? I've got me and my wife's handling the books. What do I tell her?
I got a question. How much is your course cost, and how would somebody do that? Just for
the course. A trick question I wasn't prepared for. I think it's 1,700, but I'd have to check. Don't hold me to that. Well, if somebody wants to get it, I'll give it to 1,700.
Okay.
I don't remember the number on that. I haven't looked at it in a bit. Anybody who's interested in that, they can reach out to me at Duane@businessblueprintinc.com, and I can send them the link to the course. It does include a coaching call at the end, just so I can answer any questions about the course and see, you know, I want everybody to be successful. So if they get through the entire course on the self-taught thing and they're like, now I've got 5 questions, let's get them answered. Okay. So I include that at the end as well.
So what does your course teach? I'm just curious. What, this must be the basic things you're going to think are important for contractors. So give me a little thumbnail of what kind of stuff they can learn.
The quick thumbnail, it's 12 sessions. I start out with getting clear on what the goal of the business is, what the objectives are, and what that means for your life personally, because I want to help the builder build the business to support their goals, their wealth building. So we get real clear on really what do they want the business to look like? What do they want to focus on in their life? What would their life look like in 10 years when this is successful? Do they want the vacation home? Do they want the jet? What is it that there is looks like success?
I've heard the long term. The why is way more important than the how to, right?
Right. So we try to get as clear on that as we possibly can. And that's challenging in and of itself for all of us. It's the old, what do you want to be when you grow up question.
Right.
It's I'm still working on that myself. So one of these days I'll be able to answer that. From there, I go into the accounting. I get really deep on the accounting. I think the accounting is super important to have a great accounting system and being able to track your money. I mean, we're in this to make money. Your accounting system is the scorecard of your business. It's going to tell you if your jobs are profitable, if your business is profitable, where you're spending your money, where you're earning your money. Got to have a good system there. From there, I look at where are we making money? A lot of times you start looking at the jobs and your job costing, you find out, for whatever reason, I love doing kitchens. But man, I make a ton of money on basements.
There you go.
I'm like, you know what? You are the town's premier basement contractor going forward. That's what we're going to market. Now, that doesn't mean you can't do a kitchen if you want. Nice one comes up, great. But if you're making all your money in basements, sell basements.
Got it.
That's your marketing plan. And now you know what to sell. And then if you sell that property, I like to get that entire system set up so you can hand that sale off to your team out in the field to build. Okay. Not that they've got to call you 3 times a day and go, well, what did you want to do over here? The contract's clear. The scope of work is clear. Guys, go build it. Give me a call if you get any major problems. Other than that, everything you should have is there. From there, they build it. They get the job done. They do all the communication with the client. And they're tracking all of the job costs. Those are being fed back up into accounting to close that loop. And that's what we go through in all of those modules. Take 2 or 3. I take 3 on accounting because I think accounting is important and can get complicated. But then, a couple on marketing, a couple on sales. We go into the production element. Usually I don't have to talk to the guys a lot about building. They know how to build. But it's building a production team that they manage.
Right.
Is what they really need to get their heads wrapped around, not them running out to the field every time there's a problem.
I think you're one of the few people I've seen actually have a complete course. I think that's great because, if people can do it themselves, we do the same thing. Well, sure, you do it yourself if you want to, but usually you need some help. So I think that's great you have that available. And so how can our listeners get a hold of if they're interested in that? And do you have any kind of like free consultation, at least so they can meet you and talk to you at all?
Oh, absolutely. If anybody's just got some questions, they want to discuss their business for a little bit, I'm open always to a free consultation. We'll talk about their business, what areas they can work on, and then we'll talk about whether or not we should be working together. And if they're not ready, they're not ready. And I get that. So we jump on the call. Hopefully they walk out with value. Anybody can find me. I'm huge on LinkedIn. So anybody can reach out and find me there. And they can learn anything they want about me because I post a couple times a day, all about construction.
Cool.
My email address is Duane@businessblueprintinc.com. So anybody can reach out on that level as well. And if they want to have a quick call, I'll send them the link. We'll set it up. We'll jump on the call for an hour and see what challenges they're having in their business and what I can do to help or point them in the right direction.
I think that's great. Well, I highly recommend people talk to you. One of the things I really find you different from a lot of coaches is that you've also been a contractor, but you've spent a lot of years on a computer, right? Which is something that's pretty unusual for a builder who's done building and computing. And you probably know about AI and accounting and all that kind of stuff. So that sounds great. Well,
yeah, I have spent a lot of time behind the computer. I think I mentioned to you the other day, I probably spent 60% of my construction career sitting at a desk behind a computer building projects.
Well, that's highly unusual for a coach. So that's great. So thanks for coming to the program. I really appreciate it. And I highly recommend any of our listeners, give a call to Duane. An hour, what do you got to lose? And I give you a lot to gain. So give him a call. Thanks, Duane. I appreciate you showing up.
Thank you, Paul. Appreciate it.